Fractions, decimals, and percents, Chapter 6, Lesson 2. Okay, so just to review, for multiplying fractions, remember to multiply fractions, you're just going straight across. So anytime you're multiplying a fraction times a whole number, you make the denominator 1. So 3 times 32 would be 96 over 4. And then you want to simplify as much as you can by doing long division. 96 divided by 4, would be 24. And because we have no remainder, our answer is just a whole number. Okay, so let's do number 2. Again, I'm putting my second fraction over 1. So 54 times 5. I want to check my math. I think I know it in my head, but 5 times 4 is 20. 5 times 5 is 25 plus 2, so 270. So that equals 270 over 6. Again, I want to simplify by doing long division. So 6 goes into 27 4 times. That would be 24. I subtract, I get 3 and bring down my 0, and 6 goes into 30 5 times. And because I have no remainder, again, I get 45. So why don't you try number 3 and 4 as a review. Pause and come back in a moment when you're finished. Okay, so 4/9 times 30 would be 120 over 9. If I divide that, I will get 9 goes into 30 3 times. So that would be 27. That would bring me a 3. And I want to add my 0 and bring another 1 down. So again, that happens to go in 3 times. I can tell at this point I'm going to keep getting 3, so my answer is 13.3 repeating. So 22 over 21 times 66 would be 132 over 21. Again, I perform long division. 132 divided by 21. 20 would go into 136 times, so I'm going to try that. So that would be 126. I subtract, I get 6. I'm going to add my decimal and a 0. Bring down. 20 would go into 63 times, but since it's greater, it's going to be 2. So this would be 42, which would leave us with 18. And I can keep adding zeros. So 20 would go into 18 9 times, but again, because it's bigger, it's 6.28. And you can stop at that point, just because I don't want you to keep going. But 6.28 would be your answer for that one. All right, so first we're going to start by writing fractions as percents. So that's why we practice multiplying fractions by whole numbers, because when we have a fraction, to express it as a percent, we are going to simply multiply it by 100%. So 3/7 times 100% would be 300 over 7. And then they're doing long division to figure out what that would be as a mixed number or a decimal. You can write it either way. So they told us it's 42 6/7%. I'm going to do it as a decimal just because I want you guys to get in the practice of that. So 7 goes into 30 4 times. I subtract, I bring down my 0. 7 goes into 22 times. I get 14. That's 6. So now I add my decimals and add a 0. Bring it down. 7 goes into 68 times. 7 times 8 is 56. Subtract. I have 4. Again, bring down another 0. And 7 would go into that 5 times. It would be 35. You'd be left with 5. again, you can stop here at the hundreds place. So I'll accept a mixed number, 42 6/7 as a percent, or a decimal, 42.85%. Okay, so let's try a couple here. We want to see what 1/6 is as a percent. So first step is multiply by 100%. So that would be 100% over 6. So they're asking us to write it in improper fraction form. So let's just stick with that. 6 goes into 10 one time. That would be 4. I bring down my 0. And 6 goes into 40 6 times, and that's 36. Running out of space here. But so we'd have 16 remainder 4. Then that is 16 and 4 6. 4 6 can be simplified. So that would be 16 and 2/3. So 16 and 2/3% would be our answer. All right, so in number 6, we have 1 2/3. We have a mixed number here. Okay, so I want you to remember to first turn your mixed number into an improper fraction. So we multiply our denominator times our whole number, 3 times 1. And then we add our numerator, which is 2. So 3 times 1 is, of course, 3 plus 2 is 5. So we're going to multiply that by 100% now. And I would get 500 over 3. And let's turn that back into a mixed number by doing our long division. 3 goes into 5 one time. I subtract, I get 2. Bring down, 3 goes into 20 6 times. I get 18. Again, bring down that. 3 goes into 20, of course, 6 times again. So I will have 166 remainder 2. So that as a fraction is 166 and 2/3. So 166 and 2/3% is your answer. So please give number 7 and number 8 a shot. Remember, turn this into an improper fraction before you multiply, and then back into a mixed number. Pause now, try it, and come back and check your work. All right, so 5/8, I'm multiplying times 100 over 1. I get 500 over 8. Going to perform the long division here. 8 goes into 5 6 times. That is 48. I bring down my 0. 8 goes into 20 twice. That's 16. So 62 remainder 4, which would be 62 and 4/8. Simplify 4/8 to get 62 and 1/2, and just add a percent symbol. For 2 and 4/7, you should have done 2 times 7 and then added your 4 to get the new fraction. So 2 times 7 is 14, plus 4 is 18 over 7. And we're multiplying by 100 over 1. You get 1,800 over 7. So we need to, of course, do that long division again. 7 goes into 18 twice. Subtract, bring down. So I get 257 remainder 1, which would be 257 and 1/7%. Okay, now we're expressing decimals as percent. It's really important that you know your place values for this, because then it makes it quite easier. So if we have 0.12, which is our example, the first digit here is in the tenths place, and the second is in the hundredths. That's a really good clue to tell you what your denominator is going to be. So because our second digit, or our last digit, I should say, is in the hundredths place, we can make that our denominator, 12 over 100. And we know when we have a fraction over 100, that's a percent right there. So it is just 12%. The other way to do it is just to multiply. We can do 0.12 times 100%. And since I'm multiplying times 100, and there's 1, 2 zeros, all I'm doing is moving my decimal place 1, 2 spaces, which is how I get 12%. We're going to practice both ways next, but after you decide which one you like better, you can stick with that one. You're never going to be forced to pick one, choose the way you don't like. So we have 0.58. So first we'll do method 1. My 8 is in my hundredths place. So I'm putting 58 over 100. Again, since it's over 100, it's just 58%. Or we could have done method 2 and just multiplied it by 100%, which means you're moving your decimal number 1, 2 spaces. And again, that leaves us with 58%. Give number 10 and 11 a try on your own, whichever method you would like. Maybe try one with each and come back and check your answer. So number 10 would be 73% because our 3 is in our hundredths place. Number 11 might have caused you a little problem. It would not be 4%. Notice that our 4 is in the tenths place. So as a fraction, it would be 4 over 10. And you would have to put it over, make it equal to something over 100. So we'd have to multiply by 10, and we get 40 over 100. So 40% should have been your answer for number 11. So just a couple more to practice. 0.02. Again, because my 2's in the hundredths place, as a fraction, it's 2 over 100, which is just simply 2%. 5.01. Remember, we can have percents that are larger than 100%. So again, here I have a 1 in the hundredths place. So that means my entire number is going to go over 100. So in this case, it would be 501 over 100, which is the same as saying 501%. Okay, so we're expressing percents here as fractions in simplest forms. So we have a fraction as a percent, 14.2%. I'm sorry, 14 2/7%. So anytime you have a mixed number, you want to make sure to turn it into that improper fraction. So again, we are multiplying our denominator times our whole number, and then we add our numerator. So 14 times 7, I'm going to do my work over here to show it. 7 times 4 is 28. Carry my 2. 7 times 1 is 7 plus 2 is 9. So this is 98 plus 2, which equals 100. So this is how they got 100 over 7. Our next step is then to divide by 100, because we want to express it as a fraction. So 100 over 7 divided by 100. Remember, dividing fractions, we do that keep, flip, change. So I'm keeping my first fraction, and my second, 100 over 1, gets flipped to 1 over 100. So I go straight across. 100 times 1 is 100, and 7 times 100 is 700. So now I'm going to simplify. In this case, I can simplify it quite quickly because I'm just canceling out zeros, and I would get 1/7 as my answer. All right, let's try number 14, 37.5%. So first I'm going to turn it as an improper fraction. So to do that, again, I'm multiplying the denominator times the whole number, and I add my numerator. So 37 times 2 would be 74, plus 1 is 75. So I get 75 over 2. My next step is to divide by 100. So 75 over 2 divided by 100. So now I'm going to get to this point, perform that keep, flip, change. I keep 75 over 2, and 100 becomes 1 over 100. So now I'm multiplying straight across. 75 times 1 is 75, and 2 times 100 is 200. And now I want to simplify, so I'm going to divide by the greatest common factor. I see numbers here that remind me of quarters, so I'm going to try dividing by 25. 75 divided by 25 is 3, and 200 divided by 25 is 8. So 3/8 is my fraction in simplest form. So I'll do number 15 and 17 with you, and then I'm going to ask you to try 16 and 18 on your own. So again, first step is to change it to an improper fraction. So 5 times 4 plus 1 over my same denominator. So 5 times 4 is 20, plus 1 is 21 over 4. Now I need to multiply it divide by 100. So I'm doing keep, flip, change. And I keep 21 over 4 and multiply times 1 over 100. And I get 21 over 400. So in this case, I'm going to see if I can simplify. And my factors of 21 are 1, 3, 7, and 21. And none of those are factors of 400. So this is actually in simplest form. Let's do number 17. First, change it to an improper fraction. So I'm doing 3 times 66 plus 2, and I'm keeping it over 3. 66 times 3 is 198, plus 2 would be 200 over 3. Now I'm going to divide by 100. Again, I have to do keep, flip, change. So I have 200 over 3 times 1 over 100. And I get 200 over 300. I'm going to simplify by canceling some zeros. And 2/3 would be my final answer for number 17. Please pause now and try 16 and 18 and come back and check your work. So turning 16 into a mixed number, I would get 59 over 8. If I divide by 100, what I do is 59 over 8 times 1 over 100. And I get 59 over 800. And that's actually in simplest form too. 59 is a prime number. And then number 18, we should have done 9 times 55 plus 5, kept it over 9. And I would get 500 over 9. And I'm going to divide by 100. Again, anytime I'm dividing fractions, I do keep, flip, change. So I get 500 over 9 times 1 over 100 would equal 500 over 900. And in this case, we can again cancel some zeros. So my final answer would be 5/9. So sometimes you're going to see decimals as percents, in this case 41.8. Again, to put that in simplest form, we're going to divide by 100. But in this case, we have a decimal divided by 100. So they're writing it as a fraction. Remember, every fraction is a division problem. So our percent is our numerator, and 100 will become our denominator. I want to get rid of that decimal. So you see in the second step here, there's no decimal. So all they did was move my decimal over one place on top, which meant that the decimal that wasn't seen here on the bottom also had to be moved, and a 0 was filled in. So this became 418 over 1,000. And then they simplified by dividing by 2. And 209 over 500 was the final answer. Okay, we're going to do a little practice with the decimals. So let's just start by putting them over 100, 25.5 over 100. Now I need to get rid of those decimals, so I move my one on the top one space, and that invisible one on the bottom gets moved over, so I have to add a 0. So I get 255 over 1,000. And to simplify, I'm going to divide by 5, which is the greatest common factor. 255 divided by 5 would be 51, and 1,000 divided by 5 is 200. 51 is a prime number, so that's how I know this is in simplest form. In number 20, we have a different scenario here. We have 6.02 over 100. Notice our decimal needs to be moved 2 times here. So that invisible 1 in 100 also needs to be moved 2 times. So we're adding 2 zeros. We get 602 over 10,000. And to simplify, I'm going to divide by 2. 602 divided by 2 is 301. And 10,000 divided by 2 would be 5,000. All right, I would really like you to try number 21 through 24 on your own and then come back and check your work. So 8.9 over 100, I move my decimal and I'd get 89 over 1,000. 89 is prime, so that's the way it stays. And number 22, 15.17 over 100. This is another example where we move our decimal 2 spaces, so 2 spaces on the bottom. So you would get 1,517 over 10,000, which again is your final answer. And then 23, you should have done 54.8 over 100. And after you moved your decimals, you would get 548 over 1,000. This one can be simplified more. I'm going to start by trying to divide by 4. I want to work this out to make sure I did it correctly. 548 divided by 4 is going to be 137. And then 1,000 divided by 4 is, of course, 250. So that should have been your final answer. And number 24, 69.35 over 100. Move your decimal 1 2 times, 1 2 times. So you should have gotten 6,935 over 10,000. Because the numerator ends in 5 and the denominator ends in 0, I know I can divide both by 5. So I'm going to start by doing 6,935 by 5. I ran out of room. So right now I have 6,935. My apologies. Okay, so this is where I left off. I'm bringing my 3 down. That goes in here. All right, so I would have 1,387 as my numerator, and 10,000 then divided by 5 is 2,000. So that should have been your final answer. So that's it for today's lesson. Just remember to work out every problem. It might take a little bit, but you'll do just fine if you follow all of the steps. And please save these notes so that you can use them on your practice work and any assessments that we have.